let's get started. Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Tatevik, and I'm going to talk about the impact of GenAI on technology. Let's see. Okay, let's get started with this bit of introduction about me. I was born and raised in Armenia. I got my first bachelor and master's degree in applied math and mathematics from Russian Armenian Slavonic University. Then I moved to study in Switzerland at ETH Zurich, where I got my second master's degree, with my major being in financial engineering and insurance mathematics. I worked there as an actual consultant during my studies, and then I moved back to Armenia to work at BetConstruct as a product owner. Within 6 months, I accomplished the complicated task that was put upon me and was promoted to head of business intelligence and data mining tools, and furthermore, I moved to being the chief data officer at BetConstruct. After that, I did several gigs in consulting, and finally in 2021, I joined Activeloop, a Silicon Valley-based startup, to be the VP of engineering. I built the engineering team from ground up, and earlier this year, I moved to be the chief operating officer there. Currently, I oversee sales, executive motion, finance, business and strategy, among other things. Just a quick disclaimer before we start. All images in this presentation were created using GenAI. So let's get started. So as you know, the beginning of things were the four industrial revolutions. Everything started with coal, mines, then moved to mass production, electronics, and finally internet, aka data. But the AI itself also progressed in waves. So the first initially was the AI research was founded, then expert systems were developed, then in 2000s, deep learning, and most notably the achievements in text, speech, and language processing were. And finally, now we're in the fourth wave, the generative systems. So these systems, they can adapt contextually, meaning they need very little supervision and massively augment human intelligence. So what is generative AI? So generative AI refers to systems that can create new content, like text, images, audio, video, LiDAR, from existing data. So Gen AI learns from data to generate new outputs, unlike traditional AI that need to follow the set of rules. So this is a very basic example of if you want to train a model on large language models and you want to get the output. So it would be the distribution, and then the word that has the highest distribution is going to be the predicted word. For the evolution of GenAI, there are three key milestones that I think are very important to know. So one was in 2014, the GANs, generative adversarial networks, were introduced by Ian Goodfellow. This gave an opportunity to create images, faces that are not actually real. Then in 2017, transformer models were introduced. So this is actually a very interesting one. So there were 8 data scientists in Google who have published a scientific paper on transformer models. 8 of them quit Google, 7 of them opened their own startups, and 1 went to work for OpenAI. So from those 7, like those startups were billions of dollars. For example, Cohere, which you might have heard recently, has raised $500 million and is now valuated at $5.5 billion. And finally, in 2021, computational power was improved, which enabled more complex and realistic generations. So this is an example of GANs, a deep take technology. This was supposed to be a video, but it's not really working, so we're just going to skip that. But this is a video of Morgan Freeman speaking, like with his actual voice, but it's not him. It's an AI-created example. Then we have an example of transformer models. This is ChatGPT. Probably you've used this multiple times. It actually gives a pretty good results when given a correct prompt. And finally, an interesting one. I wanted to bring this up. So this is a painting that was created by GenAI tool, and it was sold at Christie's for about $500,000. It was just painted on canvas. The funny thing is that the name is Bellamy, so it's a pun on Ian Goodfellow, the inventor of guns. It's Bellamy, translated from French, Goodfellow, as good friend, Goodfellow. The application for generative AI. So there is content creation and code generation. Content creation can be anything from text, images, music, audio, and code generation is actually the AI system that helps engineers to write code and thus reduces development time. This is an example of an image, not an actual image, but the one created with GenAI. This is another. You can see I used DALL-E 3, gave a prompt, and this is a very realistic result. And this is another AI-created music variation. So this was completely created by AI. I would like to just ask to turn it down for a sec. Yeah, it's pretty interesting how it works. So basically, no human involved as well. Okay, let's move on. So this is an example of GitHub Copilot. This is a code generation. These days, many developers, I know all that in Activeloop definitely use it, help generating new code. This speeds up the development process as well as time on just writing unit tests, which is timely for sure. Let's talk about GenAI in data science. So one of the important things there is data augmentation. Data augmentation is actually the creation of synthetic data. Why is this important? Data is generally scarce or very expensive to obtain. So most of the companies used data augmentation to create data, like for example, NVIDIA's GUNS use their tool to create images to train autonomous vehicles models. Also, predictive modeling is very important. This helps, like for example, in this case, Netflix AI would predict using their predictive model what next topics or next videos or next movies you'd like to see, and it's based on historical data collected from the information you have provided. And finally, data visualization. This is an example from Activeloop's database. It's also very important, like data scientists train models on different types of data and subsets of data. To better understand what data you're working with to train it to your models, you need to visualize them. There are different tools out there that help you doing that. Now let's talk about GenAI in healthcare. As you know, drug discovery is one of the prominent spheres in healthcare these days, and AI-generated hypotheses help to develop new drugs, and they speed up the process of discoveries. If it would have taken decades to develop a new drug or new cure, now it can take as little as 6 months to do that. Medical imaging is also very prominent. We at Activeloop partner with Bayer Radiology. They use different AI tools to enhance the analysis of medical images like X-rays, CT scans, and then with this, they provide more accurate diagnosis to patients. And finally, very popular is, let's see, personalized medicine. Personalized medicine, these days, I think IBM Watson Health is one of the prominent AI generators. So they get insights from patient data and optimize the treatments for individual patients. Now let's talk about business. This clicker is not working. Yes, okay, awesome. Okay, so finance modeling and predictions. There are AI-driven forecasting and analysis. There's also automated trading. So there are a lot of AI algorithms that help making decisions in real time to traders. This is becoming more and more used in especially stock exchange in New York. I've seen that a lot. And finally, chatbots. So chatbots, probably most of you has used already. So these are customer support interactions, but the difference between the classical version is that now they learn from your responses and they become better. And then their responses are based on all the data they collect from their correspondence with different consumers and thus improve. Obviously, we need to take into account some ethical considerations. There is bias, transparency, and privacy concerns involved. Very important is data privacy in AI applications and, of course, protecting user data and complying with all the regulations. Also, there is obviously bias in AI because it was created by human, and a lot of AI applications tend to hallucinate. We should not forget about that. And we need to always expect, we shouldn't always expect fair results, but we should always try to understand what the result is and never assume that it's correct. So the challenges in implementing. So there are also a few quite challenges. For example, technical data integration related. I think integration related is something that not every company is startup. There are legacy systems, and integrating new AI technologies can be hard sometimes. Data, as I mentioned, not only the quantity, but also the quality of data is important. So that's also a challenging task at times. And obviously, model accuracy is important in this case. And then I just brought up several steps to integrate GenAI into businesses. I think the most important one is identifying a use case for it. Because these days, I have so many prospects just coming and asking, I want to have GenAI integrated in my system. But do you actually need it? Do you have a use case for it? I think that's the main question that you need to ask. And obviously, there should be people who understand how to develop those tools within your company, to refine models, to monitor them for you to be able to use the technologies. The role of collaboration is also quite important, especially between academia and industry. A lot of prominent companies these days and leaders of the industry already are creating different funds to help researchers to be in the actual business world and use GenAI from the very beginning. And finally, there are two latest innovations that I wanted to share with you. One is multimodal AI applications, and the second is RAG applications. So multimodal AI applications is basically a type of deep learning that uses multimodalities of data. So for example, if I just bring an example from Meta Image Bind, right? Let's say you give the model an image of a beach shore and a sound of a car. The result would be a picture of a car standing on a beach. So that's using multimodalities. And then RAG application stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So this helps models like GPT-4 to retrieve relevant information to give more accurate results. This is also one of the latest innovations that is quite useful and used in the industry. That's it. Thank you so much.